We're here with Jordyn Stick from Survivor Madagascar, and he is the runner-up, unfortunately.
Oh.
How are you, Jordyn?
I'm fine right now. A little bummed I didn't win, but
A little?
I'm really bummed. I totally deserve that. I was robbed.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Definition of the word bitter. It's awful.
It really is horrible. And when I figured out that you weren't the winner, I thought of a certain GIF. The one with Tyra Banks saying, "We were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you." That is exactly what I thought of. And I don't know if that exactly applies, but yeah.
I think it perfectly applies. This game was just crazy though. I mean, I'm glad that if I lost, it was to Eric, because Eric's a really good friend.
Right.
But, I mean, I still deserve to win. But, I mean, even if I had taken Ethan, I still think I would have lost.
Really?
Yeah, because, um, Eric would have been the deciding vote then, and Eric wouldn't have voted for me.
Right. Not after that.
Yeah.
Especially after what you told him.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I told Jake the same thing though, and he still voted for me, so
That's
you
true.
never really know.
Well, assuming Jake didn't vote for you, then it just would have been 4-2.
Oh yeah, that would have been awful. And actually, I thought I had Link's vote, and I didn't think I had Jake's.
What do you think you could have changed to win the game? Like, at what point was your mistake?
I mean, there was so many different scenarios. I guess the game could have changed. Um, the real mistakes I made were not keeping Ronnie and Nick in the game longer. Like that's ultimately why they voted me not to win. And, I mean, in reality, if I had kept them in longer, they wouldn't have stayed with me. They would have voted me out. And so I really didn't see a scenario in keeping them in to keep myself safe. I mean, I think I should have built more of a relationship with Tom and Link, but I never talked to them in the game because I had no reason to. Because I knew they were aligned and there was no way they were going to flip to help me.
So, what's your take on bitter jury members?
Um, you know, they're really something that should be, I mean, I don't like them, but they're always gonna be there. And so I really think that not talking to people before and after their elimination was kind of a problem for me. Because
Right.
I really played the game well. My problem was, jury control, which I didn't really have.
So, like, you don't think you could have done anything to get Ronnie's vote or Nick's vote or, you know?
Well, Ronnie I knew beforehand was gonna be bitter. I mean, I had other people talking to me about Ronnie because I've knew him before and that he's always bitter whenever he votes. So I don't think there was anything I could have done with him. Um, Nick told me my mistake in this game was not voting with him, but I really couldn't have changed that. I think something that definitely hurt me in the game was Tom and Link not being there for the final, like, tribal council. Because
That's
I
true.
probably think I could have talked them into voting for me, but no one was asking questions except for Michael, but Michael already knew how he was voting, so there's no point.
I think that was a really big staple in why the vote finished the way it was because Tom and Link would have been two people that would have actually asked questions and made good discussion, and they just weren't there. So,
Yeah, and I do think that if they were there to see how the game truly fleshed out, then they would have voted for me. Because the reason that they both had Jake and Ronnie higher than me was because they figured they were the nice guys and that they were the ones in control early on. Like that's what they told me whenever they were voting out Jake at Final Nine was that they thought he was the best player, and so they probably thought they were running it. And so I really think if they had stayed for the rest, I definitely could have flipped it.
okay, so if there's one person you wish was not on your tribe from the start, who would it be?
Oh, God, oh, Brendan, that kid, he was just, um, I didn't think he was that bad initially until we hit that second challenge.
Yeah, that challenge just seems to be coming back up in conversations and discussions.
I
Like,
mean, I think that was the point that I truly like started playing the game. because I really wasn't there for the first challenge or the first vote, really.
Mhm.
Um, and whenever he was just like, "I'm voting you out,"
Did
you
you
know,
think that maybe he actually did have some power on the tribe, or did you just not believe him at all?
he really didn't have any power. Like everyone kind of just took it as a joke because the people that he thought he had with him were like me, Jake, and Ronnie, and Booyah, and none of us were gonna be with him because pre-merge it was us four, not Brendan.
Okay, so imagine merging with Brendan.
Oh God.
What kind of game would you have ended up playing?
Oh God. I probably would have like been. I don't care where the other tribe takes me. Get Brendan out, and then I would have tried to play the game because me and Jake talked about it. Because Brendan's not a thought. He doesn't think, and so I don't think he would have really worked well with us in the game we played in flipping it at merge.
So was it just like he annoyed you, or was it that he was some sort of threat in a way?
He annoyed us, and he wasn't really a threat. He just seemed very vocal, I guess.
Yeah.
Like he could probably annoy someone to the point where they're like, "Fine, I'll vote with you."
What was the hardest thing that you had to do in this entire game?
Um, I guess the hardest thing was voting out Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, I knew it was necessary because, I ultimately wanted me and Eric at Final 2. I wanted that at day 1, but, I mean, I needed to make sure that it was us, and the only way to do that was to get Jake out at 4th. And initially, I started getting close to Jake just for the purpose of the game, to make sure he would always be on my side, and after reading the diary rooms, he felt that way about me, that he was very close to me. But it started off as just gameplay, but then I really developed this relationship. Well, then I knew in order to progress in the game, I did ultimately have to vote him out.
Did you feel guilty doing it? Like, how hard was it on a scale of 1 to 10? Like,
Um, Actually, at first, I was just excited about me and Eric, so I really didn't feel that guilty until I went back and read, like, basically he wanted to vote me out until he realized how close friends we were, and then I really felt guilty. And I'm sorry, Jake, if you're listening. Like, I really feel bad about that.
so aside from the hardest moment in the game, what was the scariest moment for you?
Um, I think the scariest moment was the final 6 tribal council because Ronnie at that point had kind of realized me and Eric were a final 2, and if he could convince Nick and Jake to vote with him, they easily could have voted out Eric that round. Which, I mean, that was the main thing in my head because then I really wouldn't have had anyone, and really no one knew exactly where the votes were going to lie in the final 6.
Do you think if Eric got taken out any time in the merge that you would have made the final two?
Um, well, if he had been taken out at Final 6, I did end up winning Final 5, 4, and 3 immunities, which, I mean, weren't really close by the way I won them. I mean, I won them by a lot, kind of. And so I do ultimately think I could have made Final 2, and probably would have played a better game because then I would have had to stay loyal to Jacob and Bronny. And so maybe I could have won, but I mean, I wasn't ever going to risk Eric leaving for that.
Okay, so you merge with 3 members against 7, and you make it through the entire merge to the final two,
Yeah.
and then you lose to
Oh
your
my god.
alliance member from the majority.
It was awful.
I mean, how do you even like? How do you even put that into words of for emotions? Like,
I don't, oh my god, like I thought, since he was the one that flipped, he would have absolutely no votes. Like, to me it made sense. Take him, no one will vote for him.
bitter jury members got you in
Better
the end.
jury members. And I was hoping they would be bitter against Eric for flipping. Which, I mean, the ones that voted for me were upset at him for flipping, but
Okay, so let's say Ethan was not inactive, but the game ended up the way it did anyway. Who do you think you would have voted for?
Eric kept telling me he had a close relationship to Ethan, I do think Ethan is one of those players that would have based it on who voted him out at the final three. Since he was kind of in an odd position with us where neither of us were really close to him. I mean, I would have tried to build a relationship with him like I did with Jake, but it all depends on whether he would vote bitterly like Ronnie or who played the best game like Jake.
Okay, so let's imagine that the tribes switch sometime in the game, whether it's Final 14, 12, whatever. How much would that have changed this game?
Um, I think people at the very beginning were trying to take out those who were inactive, not really putting so much of an effort. And even though I wasn't really doing anything pre-merge as far as competitions, the way I talked, I at least kind of came off as a leader, which, depending on who I was on a tribe with, would either be a good thing or a bad thing.
So it could have been even better for you or really bad.
Right. I mean, it would all depends on the numbers at the flip and who was specifically there.
It's true. Brendan could have made it farther.
Oh yeah, but glad he didn't. So.
Why did you decide to keep Brendan one tribal council longer than Joshi?
um, I'm trying to remember what happened. I think Booyah didn't want to vote for Brendan. I think he was. I'm trying to remember. Like it was such a while ago, and I've done so much gaming since then. I'm pretty sure it was that he didn't want to vote for Brendan, and so I was thinking, while we have his vote, let's take out. I think it was Joshi.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take out Joshi, and then for sure us three will have like a good majority, or we'll be like half of it, and their votes will split or whatever. Like that was a big thing I did in the like whenever they wanted to flip some rounds. Like I remember whenever Jake wanted to vote out Ronnie at the final six, I'm like, let's just use this round while we have a majority to take out Nick, then we can take him out.
Were you surprised when your tribe had such, like, the votes were so spread out? Like, how surprised were you?
Oh, I was very surprised. Like, I remember telling Jake and Ronnie, like, if these people would get a mind, they would know three is not a majority on this tribe. Just none of them are voting together. And I think it's because there wasn't much experience within the people on the tribe. I think it has a lot to do with it.
I mean, that could be, but then you look at their confessionals, and then they're like, well, I think this person's getting voted out tonight, so I'm going to vote for them. Like, do you think that they just thought that other people thought like them, or?
I mean, that had to be the case because, you know,
Yeah,
maybe because there's so many inactive people, they just figured, oh, this inactive person will get voted off, but then instead we voted off a different inactive person.
yeah. So, in the final seven,
Mhm.
you were one vote away from going home.
Mhm.
So, what, like, how would you have felt if you were voted out at the final seven?
Um, if I was voted out, I would have been very pissed at Ronnie.
You think Ronnie would have done it?
Um, well, just because Ronnie didn't vote with us anyway that round, because he voted out Nick that round, even though we were all voting out Michael. And so, if some weird vote had happened and I had been voted out, I do think it would have been Ronnie. Because that was whenever Ronnie was starting to think, I want to play my game, not Jordyn's.
Okay, so in this game, there was kind of a variety of occupations. Some, like, most of them were students, including
Mm,
you.
yeah.
But then you had some other interesting people, like Obitha, a cupcake maker. You had Jake, who played football not for a living, but still.
yeah.
And then you had Link, who was a ranger. Like, do you think that puts their mind in a certain set when they're playing the game, or do you think that doesn't really matter at all?
Well, you can tell on Ronnie and Eric that it did because they were more about trying to please everybody, and they both work in food service, which trying to make people happy is really what you do. And so, like, people commended Eric because he was talking to people and they liked him. They said Ronnie was talking to more people. and that they liked him for that. Because that's really what they do in their job.
Yeah. Um, so the difference in ages, do you think that showed in some cases?
Um, Not really, because I mean, just everyone kind of got along or didn't get along based on one thing or another. Like, I don't know how old like anybody here is except for Eric and Jake.
Right. Well, did you know that Boo is 14?
No idea. I didn't talk to Boo at all in this game, so.
Oh, okay. Well, screw you, Boo. If Andrew, let's say he didn't quit, do you
Mhm.
think Sambava would have been Pagan?
Um, Possibly, not possibly. Um, it would have split at that time, and so it would have been rocks.
You wouldn't have tried to flip someone else.
I mean, because like I knew, like in my mind, I knew Andrew, Tom, Lincoln, Michael, and Ronnie wouldn't work with Nick at all, and I knew the other four were aligned together. And so in my mind, there wasn't a way, because Ronnie said that if we got Nick to flip, he would flip over to Ndapa, because he would not work with Nick under any circumstances.
Wow.
And, and so in reality, we were in a screwed position if Andrew hadn't quit, and it would have come down to a lucky draw of the rocks.
Huh. Well, I don't know if there's anything else to really say other than wow as a result. And I mean, you've pretty much said everything that there is to say. But is there anything else you have to add before you kind of forget about what just happened?
um, that I think a lot of people in the game played really good games, and that their biggest fault was just, I guess, seeing the big picture.
Do you think that was a fault that you had, or that most other people had that you didn't?
I think that was most other people. Like, a lot of people figured, especially at the final nine, like, okay, this is solid. Let's not really, like, they didn't talk to Ethan or Eric once they thought, okay, votes are solid right here, 5-4, or 6-3. Sorry. And so they didn't talk to them. Like, I talked to Ethan and Eric. They're like, yeah, they haven't really talked to us, except telling us who to vote. And so I do think that was like a slip up on their part. On my part, I really think I played a great game. I really can't say anything else. Just bitter. I can't fix bitterness, really.
Do you think the rule of breaking ties kind of screwed you in a way?
Very. Oh my god, it just makes me mad because, like, if I had voted out Link, for example, before Tom, I could have won this game.
Right.
And, like, just something as simple as that, I hate that rule. Like, I'd rather it go to a coin toss next time. Like, I'm just done. I call
uh,
heads.
yeah, well, let's say you lose 5 coin tosses in a row. And I guess it's not in your favor. But second again, and I just have to say, Eric and you both in the original series both got second and made it to the end. So
hmm
it was kind of nice to see both of you get to the end and know that one of you was at least going to take away a win.
Oh, yeah.
Not,
Eric,
you know,
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, Eric played like a, I know I talked bad about him in the final two speeches, but Eric played a really good game. He didn't get any votes until the final four tribal council. He was solid throughout the whole thing, so I'll tip my hat to him for that.
all right. Well, it was nice talking to you, and thanks for your opinion. Uh,
Alright.
a lot different than talking to Obitha, the first person voted out, I might add. All right.
Alright. Thank you, Logan, for a great season.
Yep. Thank you.